All right, welcome back, everyone. So, for the past several weeks, we've been really deep in the weeds of phenomenological method, right? We've talked about the reduction, intentionality, all the key moves. Today, we get to actually use it. We're going to apply this powerful method to the world of ethics. But we're going to do it a little differently. We're shifting away from abstract rules and duties and diving straight into the concrete, messy, felt reality of our moral lives. So, let's start with the big question, the one that really sets the stage for everything we're doing today. Is ethics just a matter of following the right rules? Is it all about pure, cold, hard reason? I mean, for centuries, a huge chunk of philosophy has basically said, yep. The idea was that to be moral, you have to push aside all your messy feelings, all the particulars of your situation, and just follow a universal law. But what if that whole picture is missing something absolutely essential? What if our moral lives are actually felt long before they're ever thought about? Okay, let's get our two main players on the field. In this corner, you've got Immanuel Kant. He is the heavyweight champion of what we call formalist ethics. For Kant, what makes an action moral has nothing to do with the outcome or your feelings. It's all about the form. Does it follow a universal unconditional law that your own reason gives you? And in the other corner, we have our guide for today, Max Scheler. And Scheler says, nope, you've got it all backward. Ethics isn't about some abstract form. It's about the rich, vibrant content of the world, a world that is just full of values that we grasp not with our reason, but with our feelings. Now, look, you have to give Kant his due. The guy was a genius. His ethical system is one of the most powerful ever created. It's rigorous, it's consistent, and it gives us this incredible foundation for human dignity. And yet, for a lot of people who came after him, it felt like this beautiful, perfectly engineered machine that had absolutely nothing inside. And this is the core of that critique. Thinkers like Hegel and much later phenomenologists like Gadamer, they looked at Kant's system and said, by focusing only on the pure form of the moral law, this abstract ought, he created a system that was completely empty of any real, actual moral content. It can tell you that you should do your duty, sure, but it's totally silent on what your duty actually is in the middle of a complex, real-life situation. It just felt unrealistic. So if Kant's beautiful machine is empty, how do we fill it? Where do we go from here? Well, for Schiller, the answer came directly from his teacher, Edmund Husserl. Husserl had this radical call to arms for philosophers. Let's stop spinning theories and get back to the things themselves. Let's make philosophy a strict science. And the tool for that, of course, is the phenomenological method. And you all remember the fundamental move here, right? It's the epoche, the phenomenological reduction. It's where we hit the pause button, we bracket our natural attitude, that everyday, common-sense belief that there's a world out there that just exists completely separate from our minds. Now, we're not saying it doesn't exist. We're just putting that question on a shelf for a minute. Why? So we can get a really clean, rigorous, scientific look at the structure of experience just as it's given to us. So it's really this three-step dance. First, you bracket your assumptions about the so-called real world. Just set them aside. Second, you turn that philosophical spotlight inward, onto the acts of consciousness themselves, the acts of perceiving, of judging, of feeling, of willing. And then third, you just carefully describe the essential structures you find there. That's how we get to the core, to the essences that Husserl was always talking about. So, here's where it gets really, really interesting. What happens when we take this powerful methodological tool and we point it directly at our emotional life? I'll tell you what happens. You get a revolution. We're about to challenge one of the oldest, most deep-seated prejudices in all of Western philosophy, the idea that the heart is blind. I mean, think about it. For centuries, from Plato right on up through Kant, the party line was pretty clear. Emotions are just messy. They're bodily commotions, psychological noise, things that happen to you. They were seen as totally subjective, totally irrational, and honestly a threat to clear moral thinking. The idea that they could tell you anything true about the world, that was just absurd. And then phenomenology comes along and just flips the whole table over. Scheler, following Husserl's lead, makes this radical claim. Emotions are not blind at all. In fact, emotions are a way of perceiving the world. They are a way of seeing. They have their own kind of cognition, their own logic, their own unique way of revealing what's real. And how do they see? Well, it's because they are intentional. Remember that key term? It's just a way of saying that our consciousness is always directed at something. And it's not just true of thinking or seeing, it's true of feeling too. Feelings are always about something. You don't just feel joy floating in a void. You feel joy about seeing a friend you've missed. You don't just feel hate. You feel hate for a specific injustice. That aboutness is what makes them cognitive. They hook us into a world that is already packed with meaning. This one insight, that feelings have this intentional structure, that they point to things in the world, this is the absolute launchpad for Schulder's entire project. It's the foundation for what he calls a material value ethics, an ethics with real, objective stuff inside, discovered right in the heart of our lived experience. And here is the big, incredible leap. For Scheller, when you feel admiration for someone's courage or outrage at an act of cruelty, you are not just making that up. You're not just projecting your own subjective tastes onto a neutral, gray world. No, he says you are discovering objective values that are really there. Courage is a value. Cruelty is a disvalue. Our feelings are the faculty we have for perceiving this reality of values. They are our value radar. Okay, so if our feelings are a kind of radar for a world of values, what does that world look like? Is it just a random jumble of things we like and dislike? Scheller says absolutely not. He claims that when we look closely, phenomenologically, we can actually uncover a universal, objective map of the moral landscape, a structure he calls the order of the heart. And here is that map. Scheller argues that there is an a priori hierarchy of values, and a priori just means it's a structure we grasp directly, not something we learn through trial and error. It's given to us in our acts of preferring. So down at the bottom, you have sensory values, the pleasant, the painful. A step up, you have vital values like health, strength, nobility. Higher still, we get the spiritual values, things like justice, beauty, and truth. And right at the very top, at the peak of the pyramid, is the value of the holy, the sacred. This ranking, he claims, isn't something we invent. It's an objective feature of reality that our hearts are built to perceive. So this brings us directly to your task as phenomenologists of the moral life. This ordo amoris, or order of the heart, is each person's individual moral vocation. You see, while that hierarchy of values is universal for everyone, each of us has a unique calling to realize a specific combination of them. And your job is to investigate your own acts of loving and hating, what you are drawn to and repulsed by, to discover this personal calling, this inner order that grounds your very specific duties in the world. You know, this famous line from the philosopher Blaise Pascal just nails what Scheller is getting at. It perfectly captures the whole project. There is a logic of the heart. There is a cognitive order to our emotional and ethical lives that formal, abstract reason with a capital R simply can't get to. And to do ethics properly, we have to learn how to read these reasons of the heart. And so I'm going to leave you with that question. For your next paper, I don't want a theory. I want a description. Turn that phenomenological gaze on your own lived experience. When you feel that surge of joy or admiration or anger or disgust, stop and ask, what is this feeling of? What objective value in the world is it revealing to me right now? What is it telling me about my place in the world? That is how you begin to do phenomenological ethics.